Hello brothers and welcome back to another video. So this video is going to be dedicated to the breakdown of the trailer, pointing out some stuff that you may have missed, which of course may be adding to the story mode and gameplay mechanics to Space Marine 2. Also, we're going to go through the FAQ, which explains some information which you may not be aware of as well, like Titus being a Primaris Marine and some of the game stuff. So let's jump in and let's get talking. So the trailer opens up as 3 Thunderhawks descend onto the planet. This is harking back to the original Space Marine, I think, where that cinematic opened up to a single Thunderhawk descending upon the Forge World of Graia to deal with the Orc invasion. Just like the Forge World from the previous game, this planet seems to be heavily populated. The spires of the hive cities can clearly be seen poking out of the clouds. I would bet that this world is very important to the Imperium, producing some type of resource or manufacturing some type of technology or weapon. As the Thunderhawks descend through the clouds, we get our first shot of the game's main enemy, the Tyranids, who bear the colour markings of Hive Fleet Leviathan. We see a few Tyranid Hormagaunt brood roar in rage as this new threat appears before them. The next scene opens onto a courtyard, which seems to be in some type of destroyed cathedral. The Imperial Guard, who bear the uniforms of the Cadian Regiment, are fighting back against a force that mightily outnumbers them. They're being eaten and ripped apart. The Vox operator then issues a warning to company command about them being overwhelmed and about to lose their position. Overhead, we hear the engines roar of the Thunderhawk. The Tyranids then look skyward, looking for this new threat. Again, we get to see the Tyranid Hormagaunts, which appear to be led by a single Tyranid warrior. As the Thunderhawk descends on the square, we get our first overhead shot. We see the Space Marine with his chainsword, but if you actually focus on the courtyard itself, you can see more of the battle casualties, one being Imperial Guard tanks and the other being a huge Tyranid. At first I thought this may be a Tervagon, but the way it's slumped over and the markings on its back, I think it could be either a Hosperex or maybe a Morlock. Maybe someone with a little bit more Tyranid experience can help me out on that one because I am a bit bamboozled. Next, we move to the main showcase where 3 Space Marines leap from the front of the Thunderhawk and land in front of the Imperial Guard, blocking them from any danger. As the camera pans up, we recognize them as Ultramarines. Not just any Ultramarines, Primaris Ultramarines. Again, I think this is a big indication to where the focus on the Space Marine range is going to be heading within the next few years. Now, there's a few cool details in this shot. One of the Marines actually has a bionic arm and carries an auto bolter. The other Marine, who bears the Sergeant markings, carries a normal bolt rifle. Now, if you watch this animation, you will see when these Marines fire and engage the enemy, they actually fire what their weapons are supposed to fire. The auto bolter actually shoots a high volume of shots, where the rifle actually shoots more of a precise rate of fire, more accurate, more into the face of the actual enemy itself. I think that's a really, really cool feature that they added in this cinematic. Now, the Space Marines bear the trim of Second Company. If you follow the Codex Astartes, which the Ultramarines do, that is gold colored, and these Marines, as you can see, are wearing that gold colored trim. Now, with the arrival of this new threat of Space Marines, the Tyranids take a step backwards, but the Tyranid warrior, who again appears to be commanding these Hormagaunts, roars and they launch themselves at the Marines. The Marines quickly make easy work of them with bolter and chainblade. A scene I loved is when the actual lieutenant himself just splits one completely in half. It's such a badass piece of cinematic grim darkness of 40k. The lieutenant then charges down the Tyranid warrior, who launches a frenzy of attacks, but the experience of this Space Marine lieutenant overcomes it. He blocks the blow one-handed. His other hand reaches for his bolt pistol that shoots into the leg or the knee of this Tyranid warrior to knock it off balance, and then he gets the advantage over his foe. He rams his chainsword through its body, then grips onto its head and rips it from the socket. It's an absolute gruesome, badass Space Marine scene. Now, one of the most interesting parts of this trailer, which will probably add to the story of this, is after he's actually finished defeating that Tyranid warrior, he begins to walk away. And when he turns his back to us, if you just look at his arm, it's actually surrounded in chains. Now, what we know from the previous game is that at the end of it, the Black Templars were present. So maybe this lieutenant actually spent time with the Black Templars. But if you look even closer, you can actually see an inquisitorial pendant attached to it. Now, we all know that this character who is playing the lieutenant is Titus, the main character from the original game who held the rank of captain. So what we have now is Titus demoted to a lieutenant and wearing this inquisitorial pendant. Maybe this is his redemption arc that we're seeing, him having to prove himself not only to the Inquisition but also his chapter brothers. Now, as Titus begins to walk, the guard kneel in his honor and we get the money shot. He observes the battlefield in front of him while removing his helmet. Now, a few things to note here is that we get to see more Tyranid units in the form of flying units, which seem to be gargoyle broods. Again, I could be mistaken about that. When Titus actually reveals his face, he actually has 2 more service studs attached to his head. He had 2 in the original game, and there's 2 more now been added. Now, according to the lore, gold service studs, which we can clearly see on his head, indicate a century of service, which would mean that Titus at this stage is close to 400 years of service with the Ultramarine chapter, which puts him at a very, very high ranking when it comes to battlefield command, tactics, and basically just badassery. The next shots we see are our first look at gameplay. We see Titus taking on hordes of enemies. Again, we can see some warriors in there, which I think may be like the orc knobs from the previous game, a kind of a big boss where you can do some awesome kind of executions on them and maybe get some more health back. You can also see the hordes of hormagaunts, which are basically probably going to be like the boys, where you can just go in, hack and slash, purge them all apart. We see scenes of the guard leading an assault with Titus following them. Vehicles like chimeras can clearly be seen crossing the bridge, heading forward, artillery pieces manned, which should all be purging the enemy before them. The final shot is Titus walking, looking up at this spire as it burns, being assaulted by winged Tyranid creatures. Now let's move on to some of the FAQ which the developers have put out. Hopefully this answers some of your questions. Yes, we are going to go into a few more details beside this in a second. So the first question is, who is the protagonist in Space Marine 2? And the answer to that is, it says, as in Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, the main protagonist of the game is Titus, a captain of the Ultramarines Space Marine chapter. Now that may be a little bit wrong, because as the trailer has shown us, he is no longer a captain, he is now a lieutenant. The next question is, who is the voice actor of Titus? Now, for those of you who are not aware, they have changed the voice actor. In the original game, it was by Mark Strong. He is actually a big Hollywood star now. Well, he was back then, really. But they've been replaced, it says here, as unveiled at the Game Awards 2021, Titus will be voiced by Clive Standen. Now, for those of you who don't recognize who Clive Standen is, you're probably going to know him from his most recent role, where he plays Rollo in the series of Vikings. He's Ragnar's brother in that series. The next question says, is the game canon to Warhammer 40,000 lore? The answer to this says, like the original Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, this sequel is fully licensed and Games Workshop approved video game that is 100% faithful to the universe of Warhammer 40,000. Now, a little bit I would like to add to this, since we have Primaris Marines, I would absolutely love to see rebooted Gilliman somewhere in this game, because we know now he's back in the lore when all this takes place. Moving on, the next question asks, on which platform will this game be available? And the answer states, this game will be released on Xbox Series X/S. I'm not too sure what that is. Sorry, I'm not a console player. PlayStation 5 and PC. So the three big consoles, yes, there's no Nintendo in there, but three of the main, or should I say two of the main consoles and PC is definitely getting this game. Another question states, when will the game be released? The answer to that is, we'll announce the release date as soon as we're ready, but we're focused on development of the game right now. I want to add, I personally think that this game won't be coming out anytime soon. I think we'll be very lucky if this game comes out in 2022. I'd probably see this coming out in 2023, in all honesty. The other questions ask about pre-orders, and they state when pre-orders are available, they'll put them out there. Another one is the beta, and again, just like what they said about the release date, they're focused on the development at this stage, and it's too early to talk about that. Now, one thing I want to talk about, and I think this is probably one of the most burning questions out there, hopefully what's going through your mind as well, is where is the star of Space Marine 1? Where is Leandros? Leandros is the reason why Titus now has been demoted to a lieutenant, why he's got that inquisitorial pendant attached to him. Is he going to be showing up in this game? I think if they don't show Leandros in this game, I think it will be a tragedy. Maybe Leandros has actually risen to the rank of captain, and now Titus has to follow Leandros and his way of doing everything by the big old Codex Astartes. Wouldn't that be sweet, sweet irony? Anyway, Chaperonios, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown. If you've got any thoughts, feedback, anything I've missed at all, please post it down below and we can have a nice little talk down there as we always do. I am in super hype mode now for this bloody game. Expect a lot of videos dedicated to this, what I'd like to see, etc, etc. I'm just in complete bloody hype mode. So yes, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and bye-bye.